Welcome to Fresh Tech Tips. I am Darrell Norris, CEO of Fresh Tech Solutions. Have a couple of my business partners here with me today.
I'm Nicholas Mbezoy Daniel, founder of Aegis Project Management LLC.
And I'm Dr. Doug Franklin, co-founder and CEO of Deck Launch LLC. How are you guys doing today?
Awesome, man. How you doing, Doc?
Doing pretty well. Cannot complain at all. Cannot complain.
So today's Fresh Tech Tip topic is cybersecurity, mask off. So Nick, let's get into this, one of your beautiful definitions. Let's define what cybersecurity actually means.
Yes, cybersecurity is the practice of defending computers, servers, mobile devices, electronic systems, networks, and data from malicious attacks. This is usually achieved through a convergence of people or processes or technology themselves to protect your business and individuals.
So we're always on here talking about technology and giving you guys the latest and greatest. So this episode, we want to talk to you a little bit about how to protect some of that technology. Doug, let's
definitely
a technology recap real quick.
So let's talk about some of the stuff that we've highlighted throughout our 20 plus episodes that we talked about using tech in your business. So we've definitely talked about websites, because websites for the most part are your real estate on the World Wide Web to show you, hey, this is my business. Of course we're talking about apps here. I mean, this wouldn't be Fresh Tech Tips without Fresh Tech Solutions. And just like Rel says all the time, we could talk about apps all day. But additionally, we talked about social media as a marketing tool, as understanding where your competitors come from, as well as being able to gear into what your consumers think. And then, of course, email. Even though sometimes we think about email as a lost art because of all the other opportunities, email is still necessary just to operate in general business. And then, of course, cloud services, getting away from the pen drive and making sure that you have all of your stuff accessible across all of your web-based instruments. So those are pretty much the things that we really like. We've really tried to reinforce with y'all that you need to have your business as a license to operate, particularly as there could be the possibility that you're pushed back into your homes again. So think about that when you think about your business.
So we're always talking, we've been talking about coronavirus a lot. Everybody has, it's all you hear all the time. So I kind of want to get into this coronavirus analogy. We're always told, wear your mask, wash your hands. These are some prevention techniques. And if you don't have your mask on, then it's easier to contract the virus. Well, in my world, in the world of tech, there are some prevention techniques like antivirus software or washing your passwords, aka changing your passwords, that can help your computer remain coronavirus free. So when you take that mask off, it's easier for those nasty viruses to get into your system. And so when I say take that mask off, I'm talking about not having antivirus software, not changing your passwords, things of that nature. So it's a real threat, just similar to how the coronavirus is a huge threat to us right now. Nick, can we talk about the hacking threats that we have going on, the virtual viruses that's going on at the same time the coronavirus is going on?
Yeah, I know it's crazy, man. Even when I was looking up the research for this, my jaw dropped, and when I read it to you guys, I'm sure everybody's going to be astounded. But pretty much in 2018, a hacker stole 500 million individual personal records. They've approximately stolen 3.8 million records every day, 150,000 plus every hour, over 2,500 every minute, 44 records stolen every second. Like, that's 88. Just keep every second. Records are going away. And what happens when you're compromised? So that's the rate that is going on. What does this actually mean? For companies, it's going to cost you up to $200,000 on average. $200,000 on average. So if you're listening to this right now, think about your revenue. Did you make 200,000 last year? Because that could happen from one event. 43% of cyber attacks are aimed at small businesses, and only 14% of small businesses are prepared to defend themselves. So the math is definitely off.
And so just so you can appreciate how crazy that is, if we're saying a little less than half of these cyber attacks are aimed at small businesses, and it costs companies about an average of $200,000. The average small business in the United States I believe grosses under $45,000 a year. Those are mostly solopreneurs. If you include some of the smaller businesses that could actually staff themselves, for the businesses that actually have staff, I think the number is 250,000. So, regardless of however small your business is not going to survive a cyber attack unless you are prepared.
Definitely, and I'm so excited because I think right now is the perfect time to bring in our special guest for the day. My boy, my brother, my straight to the top family member, Mr. Kenneth Underhill with K&L Tech. We're gonna bring him in. He is the subject matter expert in cybersecurity, and we're gonna pick his brain. So let me go ahead and see if Ken is ready for us. Ken.
What's going on, guys?
Of course you're in Bora Bora, man.
Of course, this is the only way to travel these days.
Thanks for joining us, Ken. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
So we've been talking a little bit about cybersecurity. We're not the experts in the field. We're the tech experts, but we want to bring in the man when it comes to cybersecurity. And so we kind of gave a brief definition of what we think cybersecurity means, but we want to get the Ken subject matter expert definition of what cybersecurity is.
Cool. Like I said, I appreciate you guys having me on. And, I want to say I'm not an expert, like nobody ever is, right? You keep learning every day, especially in cybersecurity. The way I look at cybersecurity is that differs from a lot of things out there. A lot of times you'll see it just about technology, but I look at it as more of a kind of a mission focused. So once you know your mission as an organization, then you can govern the information better. And the way you do that, right, is people, processes, technology. And the overarching goal is to do something we call the CIA triad, which you might have heard of before. So confidentiality, integrity, availability, and the order of those alter based off the particular organization. But confidentiality, who needs access to the information, making sure the right people have the right access and that the wrong people don't. Integrity, making sure that Darrell didn't change my information or something like that. And then of course, availability, making sure that people can actually access it when they need to. So I look at cybersecurity, the term, as more of a holistic view of things. And with that, we do it through people, processes, and technology.
Awesome. So we have a lot of people out here that are curious about this whole cybersecurity thing. So can you give us some fundamental things that the people out there can do to protect themselves?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on whether you're an individual or an organization, but some of the things are going to be similar. So number one thing I always tell people, keep your software up to date, especially if you're an Android user. It's a lot of the exploits out there are written for older software. And if you keep your software up to date, you can really reduce your attack surface. I've seen some studies by like 80–85% just from doing that alone. The other thing, if you're an individual out there, make sure you're using like a password manager. We've all got like 1,000 passwords these days. So use something like LastPass or a similar password manager to make sure that you can update your passwords, make them complex. And that way you don't have to remember all that stuff, because we don't want somebody using password 1234. That's not going to be secure. And people still do that, right? So use a password manager, make your life a little easier. If you're traveling, like if you're in the airport or something, most people probably aren't doing a whole lot of that right now with COVID. But if you are traveling, don't use public Wi-Fi. And if you have to use it for some reason, use a VPN. So if the audience doesn't know what that is, basically, years ago, I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I would have to take the train in to get into San Francisco from the suburbs I lived in. And part of the train journey was going underneath the water through a tunnel. And so if you think of the tunnel there as a VPN, and you think of the data that you have as like someone like me that's on the train, that's all a VPN is doing. It's protecting your data from anybody else. And so in that example, the attacker would be the water, right? The water trying to get in and get the data, the person like me. So that's all a VPN is. It's just a protected tunnel that your data goes through and keeps the bad people out. Now, it's not 100%, but it's a good measure to use when you're out there using public Wi-Fi. And then the other thing I just want to mention for the average user out there comes with social media. If you don't want someone to see it, if you don't want it ever used against you, don't post it on social media. So if you've got a naked picture, don't put it out there, right? Because
that was actually my next question for
perfect,
you. So
perfect.
I'm glad you walked right into that because Nick, I was just going to ask Nick to come in and talk about how we can maintain the safety on social media, because we know how crazy social media is right now. But yes, I love that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think a lot of people don't understand that anything you put on social media can be what we call weaponized against you. So it may not be the fact that the photo is a nude or something, right? You might just put a photo up, but maybe that photo could be taken and then altered, especially in the climates that we live in these days. And that's not a real photo of you, right? It started out as a real photo, but it's been manipulated by somebody out there to decimate your brand or your business. And so I think that along those lines specifically, you need to have some kind of plan in place in your own mind or even written down. How are you going to respond to those things, right? So, as an example, I have a black wife. So if someone took a photo of me and did something and said some racial slurs or whatever on it, or if they just put stuff out there like that, obviously that's not true, but I need to have a response plan in place for things like that. So we just have to be mindful of that stuff, that generally speaking, most of the time you're not going to be a target unless you're a jerk on social media to people. Like if you're generally a good person, you're not going to attract that type of energy usually. But just be mindful that there is that risk out there. And then the other part of that, as I mentioned, if you got a nude photo or something, if you're putting stuff on social media, understand that it could be used 10 years from now against you. There's always somebody going to screenshot it. There's always going to be somebody stealing it, and they're going to save it for later on, right when you don't want your kids to see it. That's when they're going to release it. A couple of things you can do. Oh, go ahead if you have a question.
I was just going to say, thankfully, when I was in college, it wasn't too much paparazzi.
Oh, yes.
So,
yeah.
How we would have survived.
Man, I'm glad a lot of the stuff I did in high school, there was no social media back then. So, and then just kind of talking some fundamental basics of securing your accounts. A lot of them offer two-factor or multi-factor authentication. And all that is, for people that don't know, is you get a little code sent to your phone, or you have an authenticator app like Google Authenticator, and you get a little code generated you have to type in to make sure it's you. There's some other ways to do it, but that's a very simple way to reduce a lot of the attack surface, especially on a site like Facebook, which is notorious for being insecure. The other thing, with a lot of them, Facebook in particular, is a lot of people will log in like on their mobile device, they'll log in on their desktop, a laptop, and they'll forget that they're still logged in the browser. And so in Facebook specifically, you can go in your settings and you can see all the sessions that you still have logged in. And for obvious reasons, log them out if you're not using them. Because all of that for someone not like me, but kind of like me, right? Because I do penetration testing. I do the hacking, as people call it.
On the good side.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I'm the ethical hacker. And so, but someone like me that has those skills, that uses it for bad, they can use all of those things as part of their attack, right? So when we talk about security, whether it's social media or the fundamentals, all we want to do is reduce our attack surface as much as possible, make it so difficult for people that they go to the next person. An example is like your home, right? You put up a fence around your house, you have a security system, maybe you get a big dog. We're in Texas, so you get guns. And all these things are in place to make it more difficult for someone to basically deter them from breaking in your place and stealing your stuff, right? We want them to go to Darrell's place and take his big screen TV. That's all we're trying to do. And that's all we try to do here in security is we just want to make it so difficult that it's not worth the effort.
Definitely.
Awesome advice, because I think that's something that we all need to just hear, man. I mean, I feel like I knew all these things, but I need to hear that. Just check those sessions. So Doug, I know we have a lot going on with the coronavirus. We have a lot of people who are losing their jobs, unemployed. Can you talk about that and maybe ask some more questions about, you know, how people can change career paths if they want to, some career opportunities. Doug, I know we're seeing a lot of new entrepreneurs. We're seeing a lot of career transitions.
Yeah, and so because we're seeing all these things that are kind of going on and cycling at the same time, and so with that, I think the best question is like, people are actually just as vulnerable in trying to start their business as they would be if they already had their business. So with regards to maybe phishing and some of the other tactics people are using to lure people into you know, Trojans or anything of that nature, could you elaborate on some of those, Ken?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, a lot of it goes back to the fundamentals, right? Keeping your particular systems a little more secure. With regard to phishing emails or vishing, if somebody's calling on the phone, or smishing, which is I send you a text and try to get you to do something. All of those attacks are social engineering, right? And so basically, the way I'm naturally skeptical, I'm naturally suspicious, and that's just a quality I have. So if someone said, like, if Darrell sends me an email, I'm automatically going through and making sure it's really from Darrell. Probably going to reach out to him on social. Hey, did you send me that? That's just me. Most people are like, oh, it must be from Darrell, right? And they go and say, oh, he wants me to download this Excel sheet. So I want to encourage people out there, be naturally suspicious and always do like a secondary check, and also trust your gut. 9 times out of 10, when I talk to people that have been victims, they say, well, you know, something told me I shouldn't click on that, or I shouldn't send the money, but I did. Trust your gut. Like, we have that innate human gut feeling, ethers, if you will. We all have that built into us. And most of the time we ignore it, and we get ourselves, especially like in college and parties, we get ourselves in situations. But if we just listen to that, a lot of times we can reduce that. So specifically with phishing emails, make sure you double check that it's actually from the source. Never download anything. Like, I don't download anything until I verify it actually came from the person that said they sent it. And by the way, the IRS is not going to email you your tax return or anything. Your bank's not going to email you stuff to download. They're going to want you to go into their secure portal to do that stuff. So use a little common sense. One scam I've seen going around recently, a phishing email, and I've gotten several of them, is about your Amazon account. Oh, you've got to update it, or something's wrong with your credentials. Your login doesn't work. Click this or fill out this link. You're going to this link and all this stuff. And so just use some common sense there. Like, if you don't normally get a communication from Amazon about your account, guess what? Number one, they're not going to do that. They're not going to say, click this link and go here. You could just log into your Amazon, and guess what? If it works, you know it was a phishing email, because you don't click the link in the email and you just go to Amazon directly and log in. Obviously, if there's not a reason with your there's not a problem with your login, right? Because it's working. So just use a lot of common sense. And that's probably one of the biggest things. If you're a business owner out there and you're trying to figure out, how do I help my employees avoid attacks like that? Because some of them are very good. The thing I would say is, relate whatever you're teaching, no matter if it's about phishing emails or whatever, relate it to what your employees care about. As an example, when I worked in healthcare doing security, and I was trying to teach nurses, and I was a former nurse myself, I was trying to tell them like why they should do certain things, and they were ignoring me, right? Like, they kept like clicking links and doing what they wanted to. And finally I was like, all right, let me just relate this to what I would have cared about as a nurse, and then maybe they'll change. And sure enough, actually within like 24 hours of me saying, look, if you do this, then it's going to do this, and you're not going to get a break for lunch that day. Oh, no. I'm not going to do that then. Right. And so that actually led to when a new CEO came on board and sent out a survey, I got like 1,000 emails and phone calls from field nurses saying, is this a hacker? Is this a hacker? And it was a legit survey, right? But I love that because that's what you have to do. You have to relate it to what people actually care about. And if you do it that way, no matter what it is, then they'll actually do the things that you want them to do.
No, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. So like I said,
Yeah, that's a lot of great information, man. You know a lot. I'm just curious, how would somebody get into cybersecurity if they're listening to this and they wanted to go into it?
You know, I honestly get that question like 1,000 times a day, literally. And so cybersecurity is such a vast industry. And a lot of times we are in the industry and don't even realize it because everyone thinks you need a job title that says cybersecurity analyst or whatever, right? The reality is there's a lot of jobs that are in the industry in some capacity. So for someone out there that's kind of brand new and just thinking about, all right, I'm a dentist and I want to change careers, I would suggest that you go look at some free resources like on YouTube, Udemy. I think even like A Cloud Guru that does like cloud training has some free stuff. A lot of these organizations like sans.org has a lot of free training. And look at the free stuff, look at some different videos on different topics and see what kind of interests you, right? Another question to ask yourself is, do I like to put like puzzle pieces together? Do I like putting puzzles together or figuring out puzzles? Do I like time management games? Do I like breaking things? You know, that might mean that you are interested or you might be good at a career in like penetration testing, for example, like the hacking stuff. Not necessarily, but that might be a path you kind of check out. If you like fixing things, if you work on cars or something, you might be better on the defensive side of the house. So maybe you might like to check out like an analyst type of role where you look through a bunch of logs, you analyze, and you look to see if there's an attack going on. So really it's more about figuring out your interest areas, what you like to do. And if something, when you look at the free training, if something is interesting, then basically go all in on that, learn it, start networking with people that work in those jobs and asking them, because I'll tell you one thing, a lot of times in this industry, the jobs aren't advertised, right? There's all these things on the media about there's millions of jobs and all this stuff. When you look at the realistic stuff of the industry, the majority of jobs aren't actually advertised. And if you network with people and they know what you're looking for and that you're interested in certain things, they're going to remember your name. And so when that new job opens up or they just had a meeting about it in their company, you're the first person they're going to reach out to and say, hey, are you still looking for this? We actually just talked today about creating this job. If you're interested in it, it's yours. And you didn't have to apply or anything. In fact, I had that recently, and Darrell will find out later tonight on the call about this, but I actually had that happen, not for a job, but for something else in the industry. A text message came through on Friday. I didn't apply for anything, right? I wasn't looking for this at all. And it came to me because I had mentioned certain things and certain interests and that sort of stuff. So really just you have to focus on what you like to do and then network with people that are already doing that and let them know that you're looking for something, because nobody's a mind reader. And that's one of the biggest things. People are so shy. I don't want to disturb people. Like, ask the question so people can help you.
Definitely, and that's awesome information. So if anybody's out there who's looking for some kind of change or looking to get into tech or cybersecurity, Ken, how can people get in touch with you? How can we find out about KNL?
Yeah, so yeah, the company I own, KNL Tech. So if you just go to knltech.com, you can find me there. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I am a little active on Facebook, not really, just because of all the privacy issues, but naturally being a cybersecurity guy, I'm kind of like, but very active on LinkedIn. You can find me there. I'm very active on there, and I've got a vast network. So if you are someone that's looking to get into this industry, feel free to connect with me on there. Ask me questions. If you know a certain area you are interested in, then I can point you to people that are the masters of that area and connect you with them.
Awesome. So before we end the show, I wanted to get some final thoughts from you. We like to give our viewers some takeaways, some do's and don'ts. So can you give us one thing that people absolutely should do when it comes to cybersecurity, and then end it with a final tip that people should absolutely not do? when it comes to cybersecurity.
Sure, absolutely. So absolutely what you should do is focus on the fundamentals first. And you'll notice that, I talked a little bit about some of those, right? Keeping software up to date, using like a VPN if you're using public Wi-Fi and stuff. Just do the fundamentals first, and that's really going to reduce your risk quite a bit. So don't go to like shady websites, don't go to porn sites, all that stuff. And then the don'ts, don't go to porn sites, but also don't inherently trust the messages or the connection requests you get on social media. Don't inherently trust the emails that you get that they're actually from those people. So just be skeptical, right? Have a little skepticism there. It's okay. It's always okay to say, well, I just want to be cautious, whatever, right? But don't just automatically say, this must be, it must be it must be the best day of my life because I just won the lotto, right? And I didn't even play the lotto, but I just won it. And all they need me to do is send $5,000 via Bitcoin to claim my lottery winnings. That doesn't make any sense. So just be skeptical on things, and I think you'll be just fine.
Man, well, we really, really appreciate you for coming on. It's been very informative. So we like I said, I appreciate it a lot. Everybody will be back on Fresh Tech Tips every Monday at 12 o'clock on Facebook Live. Please go join the Fresh Tech Tips group on Facebook. And thank you again for joining Fresh Tech Tips. And
thanks, guys.
Don't take that mask off.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.